Never heard of D4 Dark Dreams Don't Die? Well, that's hardly surprising. D4 received no promotion whatsoever since its release, slipping onto the Xbox store with as much gusto as a field mouse passing wind on a blustery day. If it wasn't for one review code popping up in our inbox, we're sure we would have missed out on the magic that is D4 2. And that would have been a travesty. In fact, we'd be downright furious because D4 is one of the most entertaining games we played this generation. Seriously, off-the-wall awesome, the perfect tonic in an industry that has become infatuated with resolutions and frame rates instead of, whether a game's actually fun. D4 is an episodic murder mystery game. Think The Walking Dead or The Wolf Among Us and you get the general idea of what to expect for the game's direction. You play as David Young, a Boston-based private investigator whose wife was brutally murdered by a mysterious killer known only as D. David's unable to remember the who, what, where, and why regarding his wife's death, but the aching scar on his forehead is a painful reminder. Remembering or trying to discover who D is where the game's interesting premise comes into play. David has the ability to dive back to specific points in time using objects he's recovered from a crime scene. It may be a flight marshal's pen, a worn baseball, or something seemingly commonplace. The key thing is whether an object carries a particular significance to a place in time. Like how a cuddly toy reminds you of the day you won it at the fair. These objects are mementos and David's ticket back to the past. Player interaction is one of D4's most noteworthy achievements. You can play the game using an Xbox One controller or the much criticized Kinect. You interact with the environment by raising either your right or left hand, sometimes both, and grab, pull, and push objects, even people, as you go. Swiping from left to right while hovering near the edge of the screen lets you turn on the spot. You can lean by tilting your body, and if you move your head up and down, you can sufficiently peruse an area for clues. By holding your hand over objects, you're able to gain a greater insight into David's thoughts on how it may relate to the investigation. Grabbing context-sensitive areas, which is done by closing your hand, lets you move around the world, interact with objects, initiate a conversation, or simply consume food so you don't run out of stamina. Being a detective is hard work, There's a ton of great gestures to uncover, but we won't spoil them all here. It may sound a little finicky, but using Kinect just works for the game, and believe us, the words work and connect in the same sentence is an oxymoron. We found ourselves examining every object, determined to speak to every colorful character we encountered, and smiling at every well-thought-out Kinect gesture we came across, like using our hand to wipe a grubby window clean. The physicality of each interaction and the option to use our voice to converse with characters really enhanced the experience and helped us lose ourselves in the zany world. Until you've held your hand over your face in dramatic fashion to dive back in time, you haven't truly lived. Of course, all these cool Kinect gestures would be for naught if the characters around you were dull as dishwater, and if the story lacked substance. But don't worry, the game's got all this covered. You'll face off against a woman who thinks she's a cat, force feed a close friend on unsalted omelet, play baseball using the leg of a fashion designer's mannequin, who he thinks is alive, and watch a flight attendant get high off an inhaler, all while a plane gets struck by lightning. You cannot make this stuff up unless you're the talented Hidetaka Suihiro, the man behind Deadly Premonition. But we loved every random situation D4 conceived. The story is genuinely entertaining too, with the right balance of mystery, humor, and emotion weaved into each chapter. The game is backed up by accomplished voice acting throughout and a pleasing cel-shaded graphical style. The soundtrack, we must say, is a real delight and managed to catch us completely off guard for all the right reasons, a theme that began from the moment we started the game. Alas, D4 isn't perfect, very few games are, but it's so spectacularly unique, so wonderfully designed, and just plain bonkers that it deserves to be praised. Sometimes discovering new things is all about taking a risk, a chance to try something you would usually avoid, like going out for sushi the first time. D4 is different and bizarre, but that is exactly the type of the game the Xbox One desperately needed. A crazy, captivating game, D4 Dark Dreams Don't Die is clever, funny, and makes a surprisingly strong case for Kinect functionality. Suihiro stays true to his reputation of creating eccentric and thought-provoking games, producing one of the most memorable titles we've played in quite some time. Dive into this one, folks. Season 2 cannot come soon enough.